Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel and welcome to 5 games I played so you don't have to. Some short reviews of games here that I don't particularly think much of. We'll start from the least worst and go to the worst. Again, obviously, in my opinion. We'll start with RouYouJin. So this is a lining up tactical game based on fairy tales. You want to protect your sheep from the wolf, or do you want to be the wolf, or do you want to be grandma? This is a game in which you're picking a role each turn and trying to outthink everybody else. Here's how it plays. In this game, each player is going to get a bunch of role cards. The Lion Kid, the King, Little Red Riding Hood, Stepbuster, Robin Hood, Thief, Witch, Hunter, as well as a bunch of, an old lady, as much as a bunch of order cards 1 through 5. Each round of the game, players are going to pick an order number and a character and put them crisscross like this out in front of them. So everyone is going to do that, and then you're going to reveal the order numbers. So I played, for example, a 5. So my card's going to go down there. We have a 1, 1, 2, and a 3. If more than one person plays same numbers, it's determined by player order. And so the order cards come off, and then whoever played the highest order card becomes the big bad wolf. It doesn't matter what card they played. In this case, we played the old lady. Nope, you're not the old lady. You're the big bad wolf. The first 2 people are going to be in the forest, and the big bad wolf is going to target one of those 2. They're going to decide who they're going after, and you'll put a wolf token underneath the card that they decide to target. Then, everyone's going to reveal their card. So this is the thief. This is the king. Here we have the hunter, and then we have the old lady. Now, each of these characters is going to do various things. So everyone's going to get sheep. So these sheep that you're going to get are going to come, and you're going to get sheep. These are worth points at the end of the game. Some people can change sheep, like the thief can turn sheep into money. You just turn sheep over, and they become double the value that's on them for money. But there's also a number on each of these cards, and they need to be in numerical order. So the thief is fine, but after that, these start getting canceled because they're not higher than a number that's previously in front of them. And some special abilities, which are in dotted lines, won't work. The big bad wolf is trying to target someone. They're hoping they don't target the hunter, because if they target the hunter, they're in trouble. So this one will steal 8 from the wolf if you're attacked by the wolf, while the wolf will attack the villager with the wolf chip if the villager doesn't have a shield. So there's no shield. See, the hunter has a shield. Then they will steal 6 sheep from that person. So you're going to go through all that, and then you'll take the cards back and go again. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most points, whether they are sheep tokens or money tokens, which are double, whoever has the most points is the winner. There's so many concepts in this game. I give it a 5.5 because it's almost something I would want to play, but the fact of the matter is I just really can't recommend it. Here's my reasoning for this. You're putting 2 cards out fairly randomly. Like the order, you're like, I would like to be first, or I play 5, I like to be last, or I'll play 3 because I like to be somewhere in between. But you don't know what else everyone else is playing. You really don't. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You then are trying to match your position up to where it's going to go. So some things are obvious. I'll play a 1 and then the hunter. I'll be at the bottom, and then the wolf will try to get me, and I'll get him. Ha, ha, ha. But everything else, there's just too much confusion about the game. Take a number of sheep, okay, then go through and see which ones are in numerical order. I think that's the worst rule of the game, that these characters need to be in a specific numerical order or some of their abilities don't work. And then you're collecting sheep. The whole thing feels like you should be trying to be strategic, but it just comes off as random. I really wanted to like this game. There's way too many rules for checking everything, way too much confusion and too much randomness for it to be worth it. That's RouYouJin. Dungeon and Kingdom here is a game about collecting cards and putting them into a dungeon or a kingdom. Yeah, that's the generic name of the game. Let me show you. In this game, there's going to be a grid of heroes and monsters that's going to be in the middle of the table. And on your turn, you'll take any card from that grid and put it in front of you in a row. You'll be adding them to the leftmost counter. Players are going to be taking these cards. If there is ever a completely empty row or column, at that point, you'll just go through the deck and you will fill the empty stuff back up with cards from the deck. So there'll be more heroes and or monsters out there. Another thing that you can do when you take a card is you can cut the cards in front of you. Now, I have to say that you're only allowed to have 7 in front of you, so if you can't do this action once you have 7 cards, then you have to discard everything. It's a terrible action. But if I take this yellow card, I can cut this here, here, or here. So let's say I cut it here. I'm going to cut I use this card, and then this card becomes a gem that will go into a pile that I have. Then this is my kingdom, and this is my dungeon. The dungeon is important because when you're in a dungeon, you can use the special abilities of these characters that are there. You can even use a monster ability, but you have to spend an extra hero card to do that, and the monsters have stronger abilities. In your kingdom, you're trying to defeat a monster. This monster needs a yellow, orange, and red. Boom, I have those. Those are discarded, and now I'm going to get points for beating the monster. Any heroes you don't use to beat monsters go into your hand. On a future turn, you can spend cards from your hand to defeat monsters if the monster needs that type to defeat it. There's other special abilities in the game. You want to be able to use the princess ability. She can turn cards that have turned into gems in your dungeon into victory points, and you'll be keeping track of your victory points from this pile. And you're just going to keep going to go through the deck. Monsters that stay in front of you will steal victory points from you if they're not defeated, so you have to be careful about that. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. Man, this game has potential, but I have to give it a 5. I give it a 5 because it just is there's too much luck on which cards come out. You're like, ooh, I'm going to split. This is the perfect spot to split. Oh, those cards are not in the grid because other people took them. And there's just too many rules. I need to look at all the symbols on the cards. I need to do it. It's very esoteric because you're putting cards and then you're going to cut it, and this is the kingdom. And the monster in the kingdom does this. The monster over here uses their abilities. Heroes over here, you're putting into this spot, or you can use a hero from your hand, and it's so confusing to everybody. I like it. And once I understood it, it got to the point where I was like, I think I like it. I mean, I said I like it. I like the idea of it. I think the cards are colorful and bright and interesting. It's just too much work to figure out how the game goes for a game that looks like it's supposed to play pretty smoothly. And at the end of the day, sometimes feels random. I would like to kill a monster. There's no monsters out there. Oh well. I'm just not that impressed by it. Dungeon and Kingdom. Islet is our next game. And this game has some very gorgeous pieces. It's from Two Tomatoes, and Two Tomatoes tends to make some very nice games. And you're moving a bird around, collecting cards, and putting them out. Let's take a look. In this game, there are 3 different types of terrain cards that match the 3 different types of terrain, and then there are 3 different types of nest cards which match the 3 different types of nests. You can see flowers, sticks, and leaves. You'll start with a hexagon here, and players will also have some tiles. On your turn, you can place tiles. When you place tiles, you'll place one in the ocean adjacent to this situation, and then you can keep placing up to 4 as long as each next one's higher than the one after that. So I could place those 2, but the person after me might go 1, 2, and 3. As long as you go higher on each one, you're fine. This person here might go 1, 2, and 3, because again, it was higher. Now, when you place a tile, if you're placing it in the ocean, you'll take a color that matches it. If you place it on top of the same color, you'll take a color card that matches it. If you place it on a different color, this is pink-blue, you'll take the combo nest card that matches it. So that's what players are doing. The other thing you can do is you can move. When you move, you'll be paying these color cards to move around the board. And then when you want to put out a nest, you're going to have to pay 3 nests of the type that it shows. So for here, I would have to have 3 of these stick cards in my hand that I would turn in and then put a nest there. And you can't go to a spot where another bird is. So when you move from the same terrain to the same terrain, that's a free cost, but other than that, you pay as you're moving around from the color to color. Whenever you make a nest, you also get to take one of your cards and put an egg on it, and basically you have that free resource. It's called a permanent resource that you can just knock the egg down each turn to spend whenever you're doing anything. And so the game is going to go until someone spawns their last egg, which will end the game, or when someone pulls the last one of these tiles from the bag. And then whoever spawned the most eggs win. If there's a tie, whoever's egg is highest wins. If there's still a tie, then you look at your second highest eggs, etc., etc. Oh, man, I wanted to enjoy this game so much. It's so boring. It's just not interesting to play this game. There is such a dull aspect to the game. I mean, I thought of interesting. Okay, I'm going to put out these tiles and collect cards. But you're putting out tiles, collecting cards. Okay, now I got these cards. Now I can move around. I'm collecting nests. I got some nests. Oh, there's the highest nest. That's where I want to go. Nothing in this game ever feels like you're putting any kind of effort into deep strategy or long-term strategy or any strategy at all. You just collect as many cards as you can. The idea of having a card that's a permanent resource, which is very reminiscent of the game Splendor, it just doesn't work. It's so lackluster as you sit there like, I'll do this, I'll collect some cards. I'll do this, I'll collect some cards. Okay, now I can put out an egg, so I pay these nests and go on. You can turn in 2 cards of one color to another, or 2 nests of one kind to another, but you also have a limit. I don't know. I was just such a pretty game, but it's a really boring abstract. That's Islet. Blaseball Wild Cards is based on the wildly popular online thing called Blaseball. Well, it's not that wildly popular since it faded out of existence last year. But this was a thing that people were playing baseball, fantasy baseball of sorts. This was very popular for a while. Came into 2020. A lot of people were stuck at home. And I went and watched some videos on this game in general. I was kind of interested in what it was. And it's kind of like, it felt like almost one of those things you had to be there to get into it. The people got into it, really got into it. Well, then they made a board game based on it. Okay. So I checked out this board game. Well, I don't like it, but I'll tell you why. There's a lot going on in this game, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything. I just want to give you some basic ideas. Players are going to have a deck of cards. There's a possibility that weather special cards will be in effect. But most of the cards that you have will be some sort of player here, and it's going to show you if these add some tokens on them, but it will give them a pitching value, a batting value, a catching value, and then a special ability. This person can print money, so they're going to get tokens equal to the number of players on the field. Not a lot of players on the field in this game. You have one person in the outfield, one person on the mound, and one person at bat at most, and that may not always be the case. So the way the game works is the pitcher is rolling 2 dice, 9, adding them to the pitcher value, which here was 6, would be 15. The batter is rolling 2 dice, so they have 5, adding to their batting value, which in this case is 4, and the batting value has to be higher than the pitching value, otherwise it is going to be a strike. You have these 20-sided dice that you'll keep things on. If they're equal, it's an out. If the batter value is eventually higher before they strike out, then the other person can catch it. The difference between the batting and the pitcher is the potential. So you'll be able to run more bases that way. But the catching then, if there's someone in the outfield, they're going to roll dice with the catching and try to roll higher than the batter's amount to catch it, which is out. Otherwise, then you will advance the batter that many spaces before they go home. And that's kind of the game. You're going to be playing just a couple innings back and forth, and there's all kinds of crazy different things here. Like this person's only 1-1-1, but they have a special ability. You're going to be keeping track of that. This is a 3-headed dog called Beasley, not Cerberus. I'm not sure. I don't get the theme here, so again, that might be part of my thoughts on the game, but that is how it works. The problem with this game is it feels like a collectible card game. And you might say, watching this, and maybe this is accurate, well, you would like this more if you had been a fan of Blaseball. Maybe. I don't know anything about the game. I don't know who any of these people are. They just seem like random fantasy stuff thrown together. I can only speak to this as a game. I can also speak to this as a big fan of baseball. And I'll tell you what, folks, I've seen baseball, I've played baseball, and this, friends, is not baseball. You're just rolling dice, adding a number, and having random effects go, but you have to check this and check that and check my card here and check this and check that. So it has the feel of a complicated collectible card game with the very much annoying random dice rolls. And then everything seems to be stretched down into just boringness. There's so much effort into this, but this game is to me the very definition of hot mess. From mismatched artwork to, this box cover, she's swinging a phone, and this lady has a fiery hand, but none of that comes out in the game. I just know that this fiery hand lady is 4 pitching, and this one is a 6 batter, and then she can control the weather card and flip it or something. Wow, I hated this game very much. I'm giving this one a 4. Maybe if I'd been more into Blaseball, but we'll never know now. So there you go, Blaseball Wild card. CDSK. This is on a scale of 1 to 10. How well do you know? ... Trivia. Ooh, here's how it plays. In this game, they decided not to give you any playing pieces. They're like, find your own. Isn't that fun? Yeah, sure. So anyway, you're going to be moving around this board, and when you land on one of these letters, C, D, K, S, the other team will draw a card, and then you say a number. So let's say mountains, for example. You say a number basically on how many spaces you want to move. Like, for example, number 10, what's the highest mountain in the Andes chain? I don't know what that is. The answer is Aconcagua. If I did question 1, is Tahiti, Nepal, or Trinidad and Tobago home to some of the world's highest peaks? And you pick one of those. Or 2, which is harder than 1, if you go to Tokyo, Japan, can you climb Candy Mountain, Mount Fuji, or Mountain Dew? So Nepal is the answer for the first one. Mount Fuji is the answer to the second one. I'm not sure why question 2 is a joke question and question 1 is an actual real question. What's the highest peak in Africa? How many? And then, so here's about flowers, Star Trek. So anyway, you move. If you ever land on one of these spots here, there's a challenge. So this might say, give either the year or the location of the following Winter Olympics. You go 1 space for each correct answer. So 1998, the year, that is the year, or location. Oh, I see. You picked the thing for the Winter Olympics. 1998. What was in 1998? Korea. Nope. Well, I didn't know any of that stuff. Well, anyhow, then when you get to the final spot, hurry up and win, you draw a random hurry up and win card. And it says, name 6 of the 12 Olympic gods. You only get 6 chances. And if you don't, well, you don't win. Or this just says me, the term absolute zero refers to temperature at which all atomic motion stops on which temperature scale, which is Kelvin. One of these questions is not like the other. Anyhow, first to here wins, and then everyone wins by putting the game away. So there's a lot of things I dislike about this. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10 because I hate it. Now, a 3 out of 10. I'm giving it a 3. I hate it even more. These cards, and so I went through these cards and asked them. So the question, the idea of going 1 through 10 is an interesting idea to some degree, but where are we going to argue? We're going to argue over how hard these 1 through 10s are. I mean, the ones are almost always stupid, like, is a human legally obliged to eat at McDonald's at least once per year? Why would I ever pick 1? I almost always know the number 2, and as you saw in the example I showed there, the number 2 was better than the number 1. Or what does the K stand for in KFC? You might as well always go to 4 or 5. It's just, but then, so whoever put these in order, so for example, what does the K stand for in KFC? Well, that's Kentucky, right? And a Chipotle symbol, a trumpet, chili pepper, chain of sausages. Oh, is a Chipotle symbol a trumpet, chili pepper, chain of sausages, or dog catching a frisbee? Well, that's trickier. But then number 5 is, how many states is Taco Bell present in? Why would you ask a question like that? I have no idea. My only thing would be, I guess, 50, right? And I turned it over and lo and behold, it was 50. But then, which country doesn't have a single Starbucks? Iceland, China, or Japan? And again, it really feels like these go kind of all over the place. Number 10, the hardest question in restaurant chains is, what chain released ghost pepper fries in 2016? I know that answer, Wendy's. Not because I am a scholar on restaurant chains, but because I just happened to be in there in 2016 and get some ghost pepper fries. They're also the only place I know that made ghost pepper fries, which, by the way, aren't that high. And so when I go through these and I look at them, these numbers seem to be all over the place, so why does any of it really matter? Here's the classic board game one. Their question 1 is, what game is laid out on an operating table? But number 10 is, what does Hasbro mean? And I didn't know that. It stands for Hassenfield and the word brothers. But 7 says, which game was conceived by Canadians Chris Haney and Scott Abbott and has sold over 100 million copies since its first edition, 1981. Is that easier or harder than 10? I don't know. It just feels, the whole thing feels like they just put a bunch of questions on. They guess how much they were in order from 1 to 10. And then you move around this board. I spent more time talking about this than I should have. I know a lot of people really enjoy this game. I hate it, and I won't play it. So there you go, folks. Some games I played, so you don't have to. Maybe you like them. Tell me in the comments if you do. Tell people why you like these games. Are these fantastic? Maybe I'm going to steer people wrong. Stop me. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.